Remember the challenging times when businesses had to pay innumerable taxes on the sale of the tiniest of products and the simplest of services. How drastically did those increase the overall cost of goods and services? And how unfairly the entire burden was passed on the end consumers like us? Well, in this regard, the introduction of GST has undoubtedly been a huge relief. And this is exactly what we are going to discuss in this video. But before proceeding any further, let me first introduce myself. Hi, I am Sugandh Anand, a startup advisor at Setindiabiz, where we provide tax, IPR and compliance services to businesses in India. In this video, I will discuss with you all the aspects of GST registration, including meaning and concept of GST, benefits of GST, eligibility for GST registration, the process of registering under GST, and the documents required for GST registration. So, let us begin without any delay. Meaning and concept of GST. GST or Goods and Services Tax was introduced in India by the GST Act of 2016 with the purpose of implementing the idea of one nation, one tax. It is an umbrella tax levied on the sale of goods and services across India, replacing and eliminating a slew of other indirect taxes like sales tax, service tax, and value-added tax. The new GST regime has drastically streamlined the system of indirect taxation by reducing the cascading effect of taxes on the supply of goods and services. For this purpose, claims of input tax credit have also been allowed at every stage. As a multiple stage, destination-based tax, GST is paid at every stage in the supply chain, but its entire burden is passed on the end consumer. I hope that by now you have some idea of what GST really is. But are you aware of the various benefits it offers to taxpayers? Well, analysts of the GST regime believe that it has affected several positive outcomes right from the day it was first implemented. Wondering why? Let me explain you point by point. Benefits of GST. The tax on tax phenomena that existed across the supply chain have been removed under the new GST regime with the introduction of ITC or input tax credit. Sellers across the supply chain can avail ITC for excess input tax paid by them. There is uniformity in tax rates paid across India, as the tax slabs are decided by the GST Council, a federal organization with members representing central and state governments. Tax rates have been kept extremely low. Most products and services are sold at a tax rate of 18% or less. No taxes charged on the exports of goods and services, including supplies to SEZ units. And finally, with GST registration, the huge share of the informal sector in the economy has drastically reduced to less than 50%. Aren't these advantages convincing enough that GST has been a complete game changer in the tax of history of India? Definitely, they are. Nevertheless, paying GST is anyway compulsory for eligible taxpayers. But who are these taxpayers? Hang on, let me explain. Eligibility for GST payment. You can say that there are two categories of eligible GST taxpayers. First, the taxpayers who become eligible only after crossing a certain limit of turnover, and second, who are eligible irrespective of their turnover limits. In the first category, the limits are specifically based on the aggregate annual turnover of the business. For merchandise or goods-based businesses, this limit is rupees 40 lakhs, whereas for businesses that are service-based, this limit is rupees 20 lakhs. Now, coming to the second category, taxpayers who have to pay GST mandatorily, irrespective of their annual turnover values, are e-commerce aggregators and business selling on e-commerce platforms. Casual taxpayers, NRI taxpayers, importers and exporters, taxpayers under GST reverse charge mechanism, input service distributors, taxpayers registered under the older tax regime, merchandise businesses engaged in interstate supplies, and lastly, service providers providing information and online database services. With this, we complete our discussion on the eligibility criteria for paying taxes under the GST regime. But to pay GST, every taxpayer must first obtain compulsory registration under the GST Act. So, our next subject of discussion is the process that must be followed to obtain GST registration in India. Process of GST registration. Documentation. Well, the process of GST registration began with the need to arrange all the necessary documents required to be submitted with the application. This should be done with utmost care, and even as a minor error can result in the incorrect or inadequate submission of documents, further resulting in your application being rejected permanently by the department. Although the documents required for GST registration depends on the type of business applying for it, there are certain basic documents that all businesses have to submit. We will discuss these documents later in this video. For now, let us move ahead with the process of registration. Register on GST portal. After you are sure that you are in possession of all the documents, you are required to register on GST portal. It is a two-step process. The first step is to fill out all the basic details like the name, contact number, email address, location and PAN of the business. An OTP is sent to the mobile number and email ID for verification of the application. After successful OTP-based verification, a temporary reference number or TRN is generated and sent to the verified email address and mobile number. Using this TRN, the applicant can finally proceed to fill out the application. Remember that TRN is valid for 15 days only. So complete the application process as quickly as possible. File and submit the application. The application for GST registration is filed in form GST-01. The applicants can fill out the form on the portal itself. Here the applicant is required to provide detailed information about the business, its promoters and the business bank account. Finally, the application is signed using the digital signature of the authorized signatory and submitted to the department. The applicant's job is done here. The final step is the issue of GST registration certificate. Once the department is satisfied that the filed application is 100% correct. With this, we come to the end of the application process. But we are yet to discuss the documents required for submission. Documents required for GST registration. As I had mentioned earlier, the specific documents required depends on the type of business applying for registration. But generally speaking, the PAN of the business is required in all cases except when the applicant is an individual or a sole proprietorship. In these cases, individual or proprietor will submit his personal PAN card. Among the documents of the authorized applicant, a colored photograph, Aadhaar, and address proof will have to be submitted along with the letter of authorization, address proof of the business premises, except in the case of sole proprietorship, must also be submitted, along with a no objections certificate from the owner and a copy of the rent agreement or property tax receipt, whichever is applicable. If the business is incorporated entity, the identification number and certificate issued after incorporation will have to be submitted along with the constitution document of the business. In a company, the MOA and the AOA, whereas in a partnership, the agreement between the two partners are the documents of constitution. In a partnership, whether a firm or an LLP, the IID and address proofs of all the partners will be necessary as well. With this, we come to the end of this video. If you are interested to know more about GST or seek our assistance in GST registration, you can check our website. The link is in the description box. You can also call us at 9899 600 605 or reach us on WhatsApp. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and you can leave your comments down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on the notification bell for more informative content ahead. Thank you for watching. Check out our other videos.